silence, you village idiot.
Hey, you guys, it's Crypto Compassion. Welcome to the Texan Tailgate. I just had plans earlier just to kind of come on and just, talk about, different things. And I had kind of actually forgot about Danny the singer, and I reached out to him in regards to charity and things kind of outside of crypto. And he reminded me. And so I threw together a thumbnail and all that kind of good stuff. And, he's a great man. I've met him in person, and I admire all the things that he's doing in crypto, outside of crypto, for his family and for the people that he loves and serves. So I'm going to bring him up. We're going to just kind of talk about things. Maybe we'll get into crypto. Maybe we won't. Maybe it'll kind of be based on doing things that really move the needle in regards to society and changing the world. So I'll bring him on. Here he is.
Hey, how are you doing,
What's up,
sir?
Brother? Hey, good to see you. Good to see you.
I have to remember not to put my hand up because when I do this camera wants to track. So
I just noticed it kind of moves with you a little bit, huh? That's cool.
Yeah, so I can't wave. So
Yeah.
So I have to walk it. Anyway, how are you?
I'm doing good. Yeah. Life's busy. And it seems like I got a lot of, coals in the fire that are burning here and there. And, I totally, I like Texan and everything that it stands for. And so I wanted to get on. It's been like a couple of weeks. And, we were on a call earlier today with the Texan support team. And I believe that the people that are involved in Texan were put together for a reason. And it's like, I feel like we've been all put in this place where it's like the right time, right place, and right people. And that includes you. I got the chance to meet you and you and your wife. And it's like, and I saw some of your story as far as being at the Texas meetup there. And it was pretty powerful as far as that video you put together. But I mean, it was a real tearjerker, to know that that you've gone through some challenges in life, and that, God's definitely watched out for you. You know what I mean?
Yeah, for sure.
No doubt. Yeah. Yeah. So what's been going on in your world?
Well, my wife and I just got back from Utah. We were there for a week. If you've heard of the TV show The Chosen, have you heard of that? Have you ever watched it?
No, I
No,
should tune into it. No.
You got to check it out. So it's called The Chosen. It came out about, they released their fourth season in the movie theater. It's a streaming show, TV series, and it's basically the story of Christ. From pretty much from like when he started his ministry. Yeah. And so it's really cool because the way that they set the film is it's a historical drama, put it that way, right? So they've used some artistic license to kind of create some backstories with Peter and the different disciples, and it's a very entertaining show, but it's also really inspiring. And then also when you're reading the Bible, it kind of sheds a little different light, I would say, in some cases, kind of helps you to, I would say, just puts it. Yeah, there you go. Hudson said that it's an awesome show. I mean, I haven't heard anybody that watched it that said, no, I didn't like it. Everybody just comes away just saying, wow, it's done incredibly well. They did it. It was crowdfunded. That's how they got started, crowdfunded. And that's how we got involved with it in the beginning. Is we didn't give a whole bunch of money. We just gave a little bit, I would say. But God's really blessed that ministry. It's been really cool. But the point being is that we were there in Utah as they were filming it, so we were extras. That's why I'm kind of sunburned.
Okay.
Yeah. And that's also why my beard is much more full, because I was trying to grow it, and I actually didn't trim it or anything. I had it all kind of raggedy up in here and just trying to get it more realistic in case I got on the big screen, But everybody that goes, there was what we were filming this past week was the triumphal entry. And so 2 days for the entry, we literally we were palm branches and stuff. They had him on a donkey, and they were coming in with hundreds and hundreds of extras, and then they filmed a bunch of other scenes as well. But And they're doing 3 weeks of that with the large group extras. In the past, they only did the large group extras for 2 different things. They did like the Sermon on the Mount. They had a bunch of people there, and then Feeding of the 5,000. They had literally 5,000 people there. So, it was pretty cool. And then last year they also used extras, but we didn't participate. And then this year, Camille and I went. So, yeah, it's pretty awesome.
Did you have to get different types of clothing on other than just normal American type clothes? Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. Okay. So the nice thing was at our church it's kind of a big church, and they have they used to do dramas and stuff, and so they had all this stuff to choose from. So we literally just went through there and picked out a bunch of clothing, and then took it up there. Yeah. So Camille was wearing something different every day, and almost, and yeah.
So cool. Add it to the list: singer, movie star.
Yeah, exactly.
No, that's
cool. So I technically did make it onto the big screen whenever we did the previous ones. So they showed those in the movie theater, like the Sermon on the Mount. So that was season 3.
Okay.
And yeah. So I technically did make it to the big screen, but your name's on a list of
going real fast.
It's like way down.
Pause right there. No.
Yeah, it's in the theater, so you can't pause it. You have to just take a picture real quick.
Yeah. Well, that's really neat that you guys got the opportunity to go up there. Was it in the Salt Lake area?
Yes. Yeah, it's down below Salt Lake. There's a movie set down there, kind of out in the country by a dairy farm.
Okay.
Out in the middle of nowhere. Yeah.
Yeah. And then what else has been going on in Texas life down there?
We had a big windstorm come through here right before I actually left to go to a conference week and a half ago, and and I left at 2:00 in the morning. So I didn't sleep that night. I left at 2:00 in the morning and went to go pick up one of my team members, and Camille calls me at 3:00, and she's like, "It's never been this since we lived here. It's never been this windy. There's a storm," and she's like, and I'm thinking to myself, okay, kind of overdoing it,
Yeah.
And then she sends me a picture. She took a picture when there was lightning going across, kind of lighting up the sky, and there's huge amount of branches right next to our house. And the next morning she sends these pictures, and it just snapped some trees in half, right here, just snapped them in half and threw them. It wasn't snap, bend. It was snap, it threw it 15 feet, huge amounts of trees, and it just kind of came through us. It was I thought maybe it was a twister, a small tornado or something, but they called it something else, straight line, but it was 80 to 100 mile an hour winds.
Okay.
They came through, and it just snapped trees right in the line.
Wow.
And so we lost a bunch of trees down, and so that happened while I was out of town. So then, so that was kind of crazy.
Yeah, we don't get that much. We don't get as much wind as you guys do up here in Oregon. I think we just got. I don't know. I mean, we just don't. But yeah. Well,
so I was out there, just with the skid steer, just taking just piles of branches, out to the street, because the city's going to come by and pick that stuff up.
Yeah. So I guess beyond being a movie star and dealing with God, wins and what have you, what do you got cooking for the future? I know that you got some involvement. I know that in that video, you kind of pulled on my heartstrings with some of the stuff you were involved in with Africa and stuff like that. I know I personally have been involved with, I got a fella that runs an orphanage over there. And, there's a fella by the name of Rags, and we never made it mainstream, but we were able to get a lot of the village Christmas gifts I mean, almost the entire, like we were saying, like the entire, like our money goes far. I mean, not only did we get
the same thing.
Not only did we get a roof put on their school, like we fed them and gave them gifts, and it was like, wow, this is amazing. And I've yet to embark on Africa like you have, and that's part of the bucket list that I think that will continue to happen here in the future. And I guess can you tell me a little bit about your experience over there in Africa and what kind of led to it?
Sure. As far as Africa is concerned, there was a well, back up. So you were talking about, putting a roof on and then having room left over money wise to do other stuff. Money just goes so much further overseas, in these third world countries. The money goes a very long way. Whenever you think of buying clothing here, you think, oh, $50, and that's like a pair of pants and a couple of shirts. If you're buying cheap stuff, right? If you're buying a good deal, find a good deal at Kohl's or something. But for $50 overseas, if you're not buying new, if you're just buying clothing, you can buy it in bulk, and you can literally buy enough clothes for like 50 kids for a pair of pants and a shirt. I mean, it's like 50 cents for a pair of pants. I mean, you just think of going to Goodwill. Go to a Goodwill or something, and getting the best deals you can, and take that and knock it down by like 90%, but you could buy stuff overseas, because what happens is they just have containers full of stuff that gets, dumped in those areas. People buy a container full of clothes, for example, right? So Goodwill, whenever they don't sell it, they need to get rid of it. They just give it away, and then it goes into a bulk container, and they ship the whole thing over there, packed full of clothes. Anyway, my point being is that money goes a long way, and people do so much with very little over there. So, so your money that you do give, if it's going to the right kind of ministries and stuff, it can be used, much more than you realize. So, just kind of keep that in consideration whenever you give. So how we got involved is the church that we were part of for a long time. I got connected to a church over there, and it was out in the middle of nowhere in Kenya. And so we started going over there to do like training and like vacation Bible schools for the kids and those kind of things. And I also, being a singer, they wanted me to come and sing at a conference that they had there. And like for all the churches, all the Baptist churches in Kenya came together for their conference. And so I went over to sing, and most of the stuff I sang was in English, and then but I learned 2 or 3 songs in Swahili. Yeah. So that people don't realize it, but even within Kenya, there's so many languages, because each tribe has their own language. Mm-hmm. But Swahili is a language that is even if they don't know. They may not be real fluent in Swahili, but they pretty much understand it. Kind of like a lot of people in Texas know some Spanish, but except more like they're gonna, there's a lot of folks that know. And then also they teach them in the school system over there, because it was a British colony. They teach English. Okay. So it's kind of funny when you go over there and there's these people backwoods in Kenya, and then they have this British accent. They're like,
oh, that is a little odd.
Yeah, it's totally British accent, because their teachers, they've been teaching English in the King's English for a long time, since they've been a British colony. And then I don't remember what year it was that they basically kicked the British out. It was like maybe the 90s or something. Yeah. And so that was interesting. The other interesting thing is when you go overseas and you're over there, and they driving through major city, Nairobi, that's the capital city of Kenya. And you come up to a stoplight. You're in a major intersection. Stoplight is red, right? And everybody's just driving straight through it. And I asked the driver, I was like, "What? Why are we going through? Why is everybody just driving through the red light?" And he says, "Oh, because it's because the time of day it is." I was like, "What do you mean? Like, how do I know if I'm driving? How do I know whether to stop or not?" He's like, "Well, if the traffic is flowing, just keep driving." What kind of order is that? But anyway, so that was pretty interesting. So that's how we got connected with those, was through our church, and then we've done some different things for them and with them to support what they have going on over there. So basically, it's kind of, think of it this way: we're like supporting the indigenous folks that are there. Like we didn't like send a missionary there. There's people there that we know that now we have the trust built, and we can give money and we can do those things. And so that's a really good way of doing, I would say, ministry overseas, is finding somebody that you could trust. And that would lead me into this other ministry that we were introduced to called ICM. And what they do is they do that, but like on steroids. They find groups that are doing well, and then they partner with them, and they basically have them sign a covenant, which is like they're going to start 5 churches within 5 years or something along those lines. So you have a group of people, and they'll build them. They'll actually give them they'll give them the money that they need to build a church, and then it might be a church. It might be a what they call a hope center. Hope centers do a bunch of stuff. They do job training. They do parenting classes. They do maybe some daycare and school after school programs for kids. They just basically, that facility is used 6 days a week, if not 7 days a week.
Okay.
Just used to its capacity, and those are typically like in more like in the higher populated areas, right? So like the cities, cities in Peru and Ecuador and stuff. So that's where we've done. So kind of full circle. That's where we've been participating here more recently in the last few years, is doing those type of building churches and building hope centers. And because Camille and I, we have a passion for really wanting to help, really want to see the gospel go forward, but also we want to be helping in areas where there's human trafficking, right? And these hope centers are actually places where, if they have a strong presence in the area, then they can actually reduce the human trafficking, because they're reducing the amount of drugs. They're reducing, the kids are not going and selling drugs. Parents are not selling their kids for sex. I mean, all these things, because you're building the community, and so that's where our heart has been, and that's where we've been really happy to see that the funds that we have given have been used in a really cool way.
It's real powerful. I mean, just even that, what you just said, though, it kind of hits me a little bit. I don't think that we can sometimes fathom the idea of parents selling their kids. You know what I mean? It's just the despair and just all that kind of stuff that these societies go through. And it's not to justify what they do, but it just goes to speak louder to like the decay in society in which they live in, that, they feel like that's their, you know what I mean? And so that's really cool. Have you spent a lot of time down in South America then?
No, we haven't even been yet. No, we've just seen videos and picture. And the way that ministry works is that because they have partners there on the ground, like boots on the ground, what they do, those folks will make their ways around to the churches, number one. But two is that whenever you give money, so ICM actually manages the funds, and then they give funds to that church on different like milestone markers. So when they do the foundation, so give them money, they do the foundation, they take pictures, they send them in, they're ready for next phase, and then they move on, they give them money for the next phase, and they move forward one step at a time like that. And they keep they build literally thousands of churches per year. I think they do up to like 2,000 a year now. Where they started out just doing a couple a year, and now they do like 2,000 a year. Their goal is, I think, to do 25,000 a year.
Wow.
Yeah, they basically want to cover the world, and they want that world to be covered with a Bible preaching church, to be covering the world within walking distance. So that's their mission.
Well, you're, like you said, you're also making it where there's places of hope for that community, in which, where they feel like they're hopeless. There's obviously options, whether it's, like you said, whether it's drug addiction or human trafficking, there's options now. And that's, there's, to have a place of safety, that's huge. So Yeah, I commend you on that as far as like getting involved with that and having the opportunity to really, feed into that, resource wise, but also just, your guys' ability to um, have passion for it. So that's cool. Yeah. Yeah.
Working on my camera again.
I know. Zooming in on the singer.
Get the lock out. Yeah, I'm just here like in the gym. Anyway, I just jumped on the computer real quick. I'm sorry I was late, by the way.
No,
so
you had
talking about ministry.
Yeah,
we're talking about ministry. This one
Is
here.
That yours?
Yeah, this is called Fathers in the Field, and and it's a really cool deal. It was a ministry that's put together by a really successful businessman who he had a father, but his father was pretty absent. He had a pretty big father wound. If anybody's ever kind of explored that as a guy, but he had really had a passion for helping fatherless boys, and so there's so many out there, and if you help, they're just kind of forgotten. There's not really a whole lot of ministries that actually can help specifically fatherless boys. And if you help a fatherless boy, then you're really going to help society. I mean, you're going to help so many things. Just think of the fatherlessness that's going around. It's pretty rampant. Whether in some they might have a father, but he might be absent. Maybe he's in prison. Maybe he died. But in this case, this ministry, it works specifically with boys that don't have a father, so I'm actually on my second kid. The first one I worked with, his dad died when he was 10, and then shortly after his grandfather died. So within 4 months, he lost both of the men in his life, and it didn't initially impact him greatly, but as he got a little bit older, it really did, and he just took a really bad turn. And so I was able to mentor him for a while, and then he actually. I got him when he was 16. He was almost 17, and then he kind of took. He needed some more professional help, and he ended up going to a boys' home, to a home for youth, troubled youth, which is where he needed to be. But he probably wouldn't have gotten there had we not done this Fathers in the Field thing first. It was like that was the first step, and then. So he's there. He's doing great. He's actually doing really, really good. And then they paired me up with another young man who's 16 as well. They give me the tough ones. So, some of these other guys, they get these boys when they're young.
You're right. You're getting them at 16 when they're like in that transitional.
I won't lie. It's pretty hard. But that's why I was late. I was telling you that I was actually with him today. I was out of town for 2 weeks, and so I was with them. I spent the day with them. We went to church, and then we hung out. We actually ran around on the side by side, and then I really needed to get some of these branches moved and stuff. So I was doing that, and then I was like, "Hey, come drive the side by side while I'm going to be on the roof, and I'm gonna be like with a chainsaw, cutting these on the roof." So I was driving he was driving the side by side, and I'm on the roof. And I should have told him to put it in park, but he didn't. And so he had his foot like just sitting on the brake. Yeah. And I turned the chainsaw on, and I start to go up in the tree, and it started rolling back. Instead of hitting the brake, he hit the accelerator while I had the chainsaw running.
Oh, goodness.
Oh, my goodness. I almost cut my hand off. And so he was like, he got freaked out. He thought I was so mad at him. And I was like, look, I was freaked out, but I'm not mad at you.
Just scared. Yeah. Just scared.
I still have my hand and still be alive. So I said, let's put it in park. And I should have told you to put it in park to begin with. That's my fault. But we had a good time today. But it's a really powerful ministry, and a lot of the guys are they're having great success as well. And I would say, even though it's difficult for me with the 16-year-old, we've had great success. And as I told you on the way home, taking him home, he opened up to me about some things that we needed to continue that conversation. I couldn't leave him hanging. So thank you for pushing it back a little bit for me.
Oh yeah. And so I'm hoping that, offline, I'd like to hear more about that. I've always felt like that a lot of our, especially like in America, but as a whole globally, I feel like a lot of our societal problems stem from, fatherless, or lack of fathers. I've always felt like, if we make dads great again, we could really, make life better for everyone, because, I think you could just look at a lot of these issues going on, and it's like, I think they've specifically taken dads out of the equation for a reason. Yeah. You know what I mean? And it's sad. And I think that if we could really get behind this and build up young men and teach them to be strong father figures going forward, that we could kind of plant the seeds of a stronger society through that. And so I commend you on that. I'd like to get involved in that in the future. So that's an exciting venture.
Cool.
I know that when I went to, like, I think I spoke to you a little bit, how on a personal level, how I went to Hawaii for, drug rehab there some 9 years back, and it was an all men's environment. And so going forward, I know that I went back over there and spoke to them and was able to be part of that ministry. It was called U-Turn for Christ. And they're a worldwide organization. It just so happened I chose the Hawaii thing because it sounded really nice, to be honest. And you had pictures of Hawaii, you know what I mean? And so I've been back a number of times, and, and it's almost like I know I do have a feeling that I'll end up in Hawaii more in the future and be part of that. And I love the idea of helping young men become men. And so that's to intertwine it with what you're doing there with these young men. It's real exciting to see when you're able to speak into someone's life when they're going through any kind of troubles, whether it's fatherlessness or a drug addiction situation, when you're able to build them up and put them on the right path. It's exciting to see that happen. So, yeah.
I mean, that made me think too, that I can also, even if you're willing to maybe, kind of talk to one or more of these kids, maybe could use I don't want to not say wake up call, so to speak, but kind of like a truthful talk of, hey, here's why you don't even mess with a little bit of drugs. I think it'd be helpful, because they're surrounded with it. The schools. Right. So many kids are doing drugs. Like he tells me these stories, of all the kids at school. He's like, everybody's doing drugs at school. Like they're not necessarily doing it at school, but they're doing drugs, all different kinds, and they can get them. They can get them in the vape. They can get the THC in the. So it looks like they're just vaping like nicotine, but they're vaping marijuana.
Right.
And the pens or whatever they call them. It's super easy for them to get, apparently.
Right.
Be good to have a talk.
Yeah, like you said, they're at that. You're getting these young men at 16, and it's such a transitional period of, boy/man's life. He's going through a lot of different hormones, and he's got different pressures, and especially if he has the pressures of kind of feeling like not having a father figure in his life, and then you're going to school and all those kind of things. It really presents an opportunity, though, for someone who's lived some life, such as yourself, who has some wisdom and some insight into, helping them get on their path. And so, yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. The other thing about that is that some of these kids, not some, most of these kids are dealing with some type of trauma. What I mean by that is even just going through the whole the COVID bull, and taking kids out of school and having them crammed, just going through COVID, that thing was traumatic for kids. And so even COVID itself is a traumatic experience for a lot of these kids. And then, one of the ways to cope with trauma, is drugs, right? They just kind of escape. And then outside of that, because of the fatherlessness, because of the decay of society, so many of these kids have been traumatized in one way or the other. Whether it be physical abuse, be sexual abuse, be verbal abuse. There's so much of it out there, and so one way of coping, right, is drugs. Kind of gets you away, kind of numbs the pain, and so. Yeah, but it's not the answer. It's not the answer, though. I mean, it's not the answer. That's the point. Is that it's only going to multiply their problems.
Right. Yeah, sometimes I forget how traumatizing, COVID, had to be for the adolescents. You know what I mean? Especially fast forward. I mean, I'm not going to get too much into it, but I've seen a number of kids that still walk down the street by themselves with like a mask on, right?
Yeah.
And that's just like last week, and I'm thinking, wow, I mean, whatever side of the fence is, to me, it shows that there's a sign of still fear within their life, even being by themselves, thinking that, that there's something out there that, you know what I mean? And so I guess I need to think about those kind of things. And I mean, obviously this generation needs a lot of help is what I'm trying to say. Mm-hmm. Yeah. I mean, they're going through a lot. Yeah. So I mean, it sounds like you got your fingers in all kinds of stuff, man. Is there anything else that you kind of want to hit on that, that you're wanting to, that you're working on, anything that you're cooking on,
Man, I mean, I think, just me personally, hey, how's it going, Corey?
There's that guy.
Yeah. I will say, well, speaking of Corey and Dane, I mean, they might be doing like a conference. We might be hosting a conference for those guys, like a real estate. Not a real estate conference, but it'd be a crypto conference for mainly real estate folks, because they deal with a lot of real estate folks, and they're trying to figure out how to get in crypto.
Right.
And so they've been doing their classes. Basically, it's a boot camp, so to speak, right, on Zoom meetings, and helping them, doing a lot of hand holding, helping people get set up. And they were considering doing something like that in person. So doing like an in-person crypto meeting. So we were looking at the logistics of that, and so we'll see if that'll come to fruition. This Saturday, we're having a fish fry here at our house, about 200 people. So that's something I'm getting ready for. But now the cool thing is I don't have to do any of the cooking. I don't have to do any of the cooking. There's like a team of people. There's one guy that loves fish. He fishes all year, and he puts in his freezer, and then he has all this fish for this fish fry. and so there'll be like probably at least 200 people for that. And that's what I have going on a little personally. But what I was going to say was that, one of the challenges that I've had lately is because I have a little bit going on here, a little bit going on there. It does seem like I'm really busy, but if I put it all together, I think, you know what? I remember raising a family. My kids are grown now. But I remember raising a family and trying to spend time with them, and spending 8 hours at least or more working to provide. And then, I'm thinking, I don't feel like I'm working that hard. And so, I actually need to kind of just refocus my own life and be like, okay, I have different irons in the fire. And so how do I focus my time? And it's like, man, I need like a assistant or something and like help keep me on track, So I don't know. That's me personally. I feel like I'm not accomplishing as much as I could be accomplishing if I was more focused. I don't know why, because I just used to get a lot done. Now I just seem like I'm spinning my wheels a lot. I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, I guess there are some cool tools out there I've seen that I've been looking into that are like AI assistants that kind of help you map out your calendar and poke and prod you, to do the things that you said that you wanted to do, and that they just keep you going. But you are doing obviously a lot. I mean, shoot, you're off in Utah doing movie star stuff, in Texas helping put together someone's life, and this real estate thing sounds really intriguing. I personally, I know I got some stuff cooking with some of my crypto people and teams and stuff like that, putting together some projects. But I know one in particular is there's a reason I got the domain names for Pulse Chain Realty and Pulse X Realty and all that kind of stuff, because I want to see that stuff come to the blockchain at some point. And it may not happen this cycle. It may be, there might be an opportunity with some NFTs and stuff like that as far as timeshare ownership. But as far as the envision that I have, as far as like transactions, I don't know if it will happen this cycle, but I think we'll get there for sure. Yeah. Yeah.
I definitely, on the, you mentioned like the timeshare thing. Do you mean something like certain properties that people would have a percentage ownership in, not the traditional timeshare where it's like, oh, you own this week thing? I mean, what is, just, can you expand on that a little bit?
Yeah, I guess if it wasn't a situation where it wasn't like part of like an Airbnb situation, maybe it's maybe you wanted to chop up a nice home in Hawaii, and you're like, hey, I'm gonna buy 1/12 of it, or maybe even 1/24, which would be 2 weeks, and you released it to like the Hexicans or the people, you know what I mean, and they had an NFT ownership, but maybe after 3 years they just found that they weren't using those 2 weeks appropriately, and so they just wanted to go on the blockchain and put it up for sale through our means, and someone could buy that timeshare through an NFT. And it literally could happen at 2 a.m, in your pajamas. You could put it on something like Mintra, and someone decides to buy it. I think that would be kind of the most simplest form. Obviously, the property would have to be owned outright, and we'd have to like figure out the logistics and the legals to do such things. The more complicated stuff, I think, becomes transactions and title company type stuff. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But I think that we could do, and who knows, maybe there could be, Corey maybe could speak to it in the future as far as like operators that would, show us ways that it could be in a rental pool. If it was like an income producing asset, you know what I mean? And you just wanted to own 1/12 of it and you collected yield off it. There could be that option too. So it's kind of like a hybrid between, real world asset / crypto that's on the blockchain. So
yeah.
No,
I like the idea. I've actually thought of something along those lines, but it wasn't so much ownership. It was more just like use.
Okay. Yeah.
So if you think of ownership, that gets kind of tricky, because if you're, let's say, it's literally you just sold ownership. You might sold ownership to like somebody that's not going to really abide by certain criteria and rules. They come in there, they bring they bring 50 people and they just trash the house or something. You gotta have certain like rules and limitations on its use. And so if you did something like in conjunction with the NFT, maybe the NFT is just use. So it entitles the use of a certain amount of weeks. It's not ownership, but it entitles you to those weeks. And then, there's depending, then you would still have to go on to like a site that basically manages those weeks on when it can be. So you basically go on there, hey, and book your week, so to speak, like you would a traditional timeshare. But then it's just a matter of, it's just a use versus a ownership. I think that would probably be a lot easier, because you don't have to get into the titles and all that stuff. Anyway, something to think about.
Yeah, and I'm sure that there might have to be some form of like KYC. You know what I mean? Like to your point, you don't want just people thinking, oh, I can just buy 1/24 of this nice place and we're going to go party and trash it for 2 weeks. And then I'm going to sell it right at the end,
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because if it's literally just on the blockchain, then they could buy it, use it for those 2 weeks, and then sell it, and then, like you said, they trash the house. But if there was a management company, if you had a management company that basically managed the property, that kept it up and all that stuff, they could also manage the renter, so to speak, the renter or the user of it, and they are entitled to that, but they still have to abide by certain rules, and that's something you want to consider. I mean, for me personally, once I saw where things are going to go with Hex, as far as, I'm like, man, Hex is going to create so many millionaires. I was like, does everybody literally just let it go buy their own stuff, or is there some way that we could have like a club, so to speak, because I don't like. Some people might want to own, like, oh, I have a house in Hawaii and I have a house here and a house there. Like, some people might want that, and that's their goal, their dream, to do that. But other people just want to be able to use a house in Hawaii, use a house, and so what about your car? Like, when you're going to be still renting a car when you go there and all that stuff. What if we had like our own little club of like a certain number of sports cars in this town, that town, that town, and you go to that town. You still have to schedule it, but you show up and your whatever, your Ferrari or 4x4 Range Rover is ready there for you, and you don't have to own it and have it shipped there, or something. You just, hey, what's up, Quinn? That's what I mean. That's something I think it'd be cool, because you're not having to own it and have all the responsibility and the upkeep and all that stuff. You're just having a piece, you don't have the headache of all that stuff. Right. You just show up and use it. Yeah, that's.
I like it. Just kind of a turnkey situation, where, like you said, you could show up for the 2 weeks and, but because it's a club per se, there's a lot more trust involved there, and that they're gonna not party at the house and thrash it because they're a little bit more. It's a little bit more. They want to continue their membership going forward per se, and they are going to they might drive a Ferrari, but they're not going to go 200 miles per hour, and it's fun, so
well, I mean, who says they can't go 200 miles an hour? I just
150 150.
I would say there's rules like that.
Come on.
Insurance, you got insurance, right?
yeah. Hopefully life insurance too.
But anyway, I don't know if this is the direction you wanted to go for this, but so
no.
But if but doing that, it also, you keep. For me, I would look at that and I would say it's another cool way, because like when it comes to Hex, we're kind of together for at least 15 years, a lot of us, right? You may as well, and we enjoy getting together. You go to these events, and it's kind of like what I like about events is I think that's what you originally want to talk about, because we were talking about going to the you were going to get me and Black Hexagon on, but when you go to these live events, there's and you get to spend a little time together, actually hanging out and talking and visiting. There's already somewhat of a camaraderie with a lot of folks that have been around for a while, especially because it's almost like, and not to diminish in any way military service, right? Mm-hmm. But like, it's kind of like military service in that when those guys get together, what are they talking about? They're talking about the foxhole that they were in, the situation, the bad situation. It was like, man, you remember we got pinned down, and right? And whenever these guys that served in the military, these World War II veterans and Vietnam veterans, when they get together, what are they talking about? They're not sitting there talking about, I bought a truck. No, they're sitting there talking about, you remember whenever we were there? Where did you serve? Oh, I was stationed nearby, or whatever. And so it's like they're bringing up the good and bad times that they had, and they served together. Well, for us, when you think of Hex, you think of like, oh man, remember whenever big payday happened, and a crash, 80%. Everybody was freaking out. You know, so we're like, you're sitting there, you've been through the same stuff, right? It's like you were all there going through the ups and downs. Remember when that guy sold his bags and everybody freaked, or that guy had his wallet hacked and everybody got an extra, 50.
How many?
Hey, you know, it's like you have the same. You're all over the world, but you had the same experience. Whether different size bags, but you experienced the same things. Remember when the SEC came after Richard and everybody freaked out? I mean, those we're going to be talking about, right? It's going to be like
we are. Yeah, we are. I mean, I can only imagine what it's going to be like in 3 years. You know,
I just had a thought, man. I just realized that Quinn's on here, so.
Uh-oh.
I'm just concerned about what's going to happen to that clip right there. It's going to be like, because I don't know what my faces look like, but I was like acting like an old man, so you're probably going to do something crazy with that. But anyway,
pressure off on it.
But anyway, so that's why I love getting together. That's one of the reasons why I love getting together is because you've been through the same things. We've been through that together, and even the newer people, they've been through SEC, right? So in a year from now, 2 years from now, whenever everybody's like, bags are huge, you know, they're going to be talking about it. Yes, ma'am. Okay, I see you, Quinn. Yeah. So that's what I like. So the other thing that's cool about getting together. So we went to that deal in Las Vegas a month and a half ago or something. A month ago.
Yeah, I mean, you were singing it up pretty good that night too.
Oh yeah, that was fun.
Yeah, you were, huh?
Yeah. And I met a lot of guys that I'd never met before, like that are Texans. I mean, these are everybody's Hexicans and whatnot, Folsomans. But what was so cool is we're sitting there and we did kind of like an after party thing. We went over to like this bar or whatever, and one of the guys, I didn't know him before, but like he bought everybody a drink. Like I don't know how much it costs or whatever, but he bought everybody a drink, and we're all just sitting there, just all hanging out. And I just look around, and I'm like, you had so many different ethnicities represented there, so many different walks of life represented there. And we're all like there, kind of like in one accord, we're, like I said, we experienced the same things. There's a camaraderie there, and we're not all going to agree, even politically on things, right? Political and everything else, but we could hang out and have a fantastic time. And it was just so interesting, and I'm like, where else can you get that? Like, where else can you get? I can't. I mean, maybe there's some place, but I can't think of one where you have like multimillionaires, and somebody that's just waiting, hoping to make it in the next paycheck. Right. But we've been through the same stuff, and we're all sitting there and just hanging out, having a great time. Anyway, that's what's cool about it. Go to the live events, hang out. We talk to people, and it might cost a little bit extra to like, and don't spend too much money, but if you can pay a little bit extra and do like the VIP experience or whatever, where you're able to hang out a little more and spend a little more time, then that's great. So.
Yeah. We got one coming up to kind of speak into what the Pole Chain Tour is doing. I do know that they have one coming up in British Columbia coming up here, and that's kind of my neck of the woods. So I'll probably head up to that one with my, friend Betts and Crypto there, Jake, and go hang out with the crew, Caitlin and RG3 and Wild SJ. And like I said, you kind of just get in that environment, and it's almost like a family away from family in a lot of ways. And like you said, there's that common thread that's kind of woven in between different nationalities, different walks of life. But the one common thread is like you said, we've kind of gone through some of these experiences, the ups, the downs, the 90% downs, like you said, that one guy getting hacked, it's all these battle tested stories. And we all kind of feel like, we're in that right place at the right time, and that there's something going on within this ecosystem where something is really going to happen special. And I think that we're seeing that there's going to be opportunities and avenues that are kind of like hybrid situations of what we're talking about as far as charity too, intertwined into the blockchain. And so that's exciting to me too. Obviously, we touched on a little bit of like the idea of real estate, but I mean, even my name wasn't even like specifically about me. It's kind of like what Matt started up with the Compassion Cartel.
Yeah.
And that it was to be an organization in the future, and that I would kind of just fade off and it become its own entity of like giving in the future. There would be like a crypto compassion type thing on the blockchain, where that's a whole nother story of on and off ramps and the abilities for people to give on the blockchain to their most charitable, wishing type environment. That's kind of the hope for that in the future. That's a whole nother ball of wax. But I think that we see that we're in a great environment for these things to really come to fruition in the next 5 to 10 years, to really create that digital economy that's kind of outside of that global corporate and government entities, that we kind of, we build our own digital nation, if you will.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. To that point, you probably know this. I mean, we started a nonprofit, and that nonprofit, the whole focus there is to find where folks are doing good work, they're serving, they're sacrificing, that are just, they just basically need a shot in the arm, like a shot of adrenaline, so to speak, right? For a particular project or something. And so that we started very small, and we're still small. But as things grow, as everybody's bags grow, so to speak, and they're looking for ways that they can give money. I mean, the Red Cross is like throwing money in the ocean. And some of these organizations are like such a huge waste, and everybody knows them just because the names are big, but the amount of money that you're giving it, how much is overhead, and then how much goes to things you would never think you're supporting in these organizations. And so sounds like a great idea, but then you realize that they're blowing, or they're using your money for lobbying, or they're whatever they're doing with your money, you probably don't like. And whereas with the right hand, we're hand selecting these amazing, ministries that we're vetting. It's like, and it's going to be used specifically for that project. And, that's how we're doing things. And so we want to kind of create this virality of, through social media and those things, that as we do these projects, somebody might give $5 or somebody might give $5,000, to a project. And to find people that have that want to participate in that, it'll be a lot easier whenever their bags are, a lot bigger, and they're like, well, dang, I probably need to give some money to a donation somewhere. May as well support something that I know is going to a really good cause. And so, we would be, honored to, be good stewards of those funds whenever that time comes. And so, hopefully people know that we're, they can trust us, and that our heart is in the right place, and that we want to be stewards. And so what we're doing with that is that if somebody is giving, for example, like Hex, if we were to give a donation Hex, our goal would actually be not to sell it. We would actually want to take that and stake it, and then actually just use so something like Hex, something like Texan token, something like Pulse X. Those are an Ink. Those are the ones that we've already committed that we're not going to sell unless it's just an emergency. So we would actually take those funds and then lock them, put them to use in the system so that they're gaining yield, but don't sell them unless we just emergency need it. So basically, we'd be kind of creating an endowment in that regard, so that we're using the yield and not selling it. And 2 reasons. Number 1 is we know the power of the asset that's been given. Right. We know it's like selling it is a waste. And secondly is that we wouldn't want somebody gives us $1 million or something, we're not going to sell down the price. It's not going to be sold. We're just going to put it in liquidity pool. We're going to do something that's wiser with those funds, so that we can, I would say, steward it well, and also responsibly for the ecosystem, for our ecosystem, the Pulse ecosystem. So yeah,
I love it.
Yeah. The one more thing about that is whenever somebody gives like to a specific project, for example, 100% of the funds go to that project. So there is obviously overhead costs, but we don't take any overhead out of that. Overhead is covered through folks that want to give money, for example, in Hex and stuff. So we just make money off of the stakes and those kind of things. So I say make money, you know what I'm saying? We make yield, and we can use that towards the overhead of that. So most people are accustomed to, when they give money to something, they know it costs money to run an organization. But we, are the attorneys and the advisors. When we said we're going to give 100%, they were just like, that's not what you do. You don't. They were like, we want to do that. I was like, that's what we're going to do.
Yeah,
they were just like, they thought we were crazy, but I was like, that's just what I feel like called to do. So when somebody gives money to a project, they get $5. $5 goes to that project. So we'll figure out the backside. We'll figure out the overhead. So.
Well, everyone's in a situation where if they're all taken care of with their own resources, they're in a situation where you can kind of operate lean, and you don't have a lot of overhead, especially as operators that are in this ecosystem. They're not looking to be a part of a nonprofit to get a salary. They'd be already compensated through their own investments and assets they already have. So it's almost just a passion of their heart to be involved in this. It's not a passion of their heart plus wanting a salary and a building to go to get an income. So it's
that'd be ideal. And so if we could find people to participate with us in the actual foundation, because it's called the Right Hand Foundation, by the way. If we can find people to work with us in the foundation that are set financially, that would be ideal. Because the first year was pretty tough financially, just because we had a lot of expenses to get set up and all that good stuff. We had someone running there, but what we're doing, because we're actually vetting these projects and we're working with these different ministries, and we're requiring that they provide documentation. We sign a contract with them. They provide documentation of like the project that we did, pictures and everything else. And then we're also doing like marketing for them, so to speak. There's a lot of work to be done. It'd be awesome to be able to find folks that are already set financially that would say, hey, I'd love to participate, and I can work 10 hours a week or whatever it is in helping with that process. That'd be amazing.
That would be amazing. And I think this community has a wide range of people with different talents, for sure. I know this. There are different skill sets. Some are more clerical, what some people would, figure is kind of mundane task. But like you said, when they're set financially, 10 hours a week is actually something that might blow their hair back, as far as they don't want to just sit around and do nothing just because they're crypto rich. They want to participate in something that has people as the end game. And with that in mind, the future's bright, and I'm excited for the things that you're involved in. And I just want to, I guess I'll tie a bow on it by just thanking everyone in the chat. Looks like we've got a good amount of people on X watching also. I appreciate that. If you want to hang back in the green room, we can tie it up in about 5 minutes, and I'll just send everyone off. And good chat. It's really good to speak with people, not just about crypto. I mean, we got a slew of issues going on in society that I know personally that I want to address. I know that you are addressing them also, and you want to address a lot of other things. And it's good to link up with people that want to make change and impact. So, yeah.
Cool. Well, thanks for having me on. And folks, if you feel like keeping in touch with anything that I might have, I pretty much on Twitter is where I put everything. So It's the singer _DM on Twitter, and that's where you can find me.
Yeah. All right, you guys. Everyone have a good night. Take care.
Take care.